The first two rounds of Toyota GR Cup North America Racing in Sonoma and Austin were early season proving grounds for up-and-coming drivers, all trying to find the spotlight in the vacuum left by the previous dominant champions. Round 3 of the 2025 season takes the field of championship hopefuls to a hot and humid Sebring International Raceway for races 5 and 6 of the season. The rough and ragged surface of Sebring is home to several drivers in this field, like John Dean and Max Schweid, who hope to use their home turf advantage here today. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by Ryan Marine this weekend here at Sebring. It is toasty outside, it's humid, it's hot, and it's about time to go racing for our third round of the season with 22 Toyota GR86s.
Fantastic grid as ever, and the competition so fierce in this series, really since its inception. If you're looking for close racing, well, look no further, right? This is as good as it gets. You mentioned the weather. I think that's a huge storyline with temperatures skyrocketing up over 90 degrees Fahrenheit and that humidity factored in as well. The real feel up northwards of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. A real challenge even for a relatively short race at 45 minutes.
Yeah, 45-minute race, but no air conditioning in these cars. You'll get some NACA ducts down the straightaways, but that's about all you have. So keeping not only the car cool and calm and collected, but yourself as a driver for 45 minutes when it's pretty rough and tumble out there, shoulder to shoulder. The championship standings coming into this round with Jackson Bell out in front, 61 points over Weston Workman and Lucas Weisenberg with 59 and 54 to their names. And I mentioned that vacuum at the top of the scoring pylon this season, with Gresham Wagner and Tyler Gonzalez, previous champions, moving up to GT4 machinery. That's left an opportunity for all these drivers in the field to establish themselves as the favorite. Lucas Weisenberg has won 2 races so far, one each at Sonoma and Circuit of the Americas, but didn't score points in the race 2 at Sonoma with a DNF, and only scored 4 points in race 2 at Circuit of the Americas. So he sits third despite winning half the races so far.
It shows how important consistency is in a championship like this. Yes, it's great to go out and win races, but if you're not scoring points in the races that you're not winning, it leaves you on the back foot. You mentioned Weston Workman, so close so many times over the course of his career, including here this year. He gets to start from pole position today. Could this be the day for that long-awaited breakthrough win?
I think he thinks so, and he'll start on pole position on the front row there, but 2 second places so far this season, once at Sonoma, once at COTA. It adds to his 15 podium streak here in Toyota GR Cup North America, but no wins to his name, as you pointed out, so he is desperate to get the job done and tried to muscle one away from Weisenberg at Sonoma in a pretty thrilling finish, and he'll have to go up against Weisenberg, Jackson Bell, who he came second to at COTA, and John Dean competing in that Legends category for the Worldwide Express Group. He'll start third with so much experience here at this racetrack.
And that matters so much at this place. The nuances of Sebring are difficult to master. There are people who have come here for decades that still are finding out new things about this place. And it's all about those bumps, this pavement that's been here since the 1940s, at least for portions of this racetrack. And the seams between those blocks of concrete can be very, very rough. Knowing the best way through, the best way around those bumps, especially when you're going side by side, that's one part of the real challenge of coming to Sebring.
Yeah, certainly. So with the experience of John Dean, you've also got relative inexperience in the field. 3 14-year-old drivers, the Tovos, Jackson and Ethan, and of course, Jensen Sofronis in the number 41 also joining us. There's a great look inside the number 21 of Ford Koch, getting set to go racing for Copeland Motorsports. That team has been a powerhouse here in Toyota GR Cup North America, but things have been reset a little bit with drivers and teams changing up. Aiden Kirk for Tech Sport Racing. A lot of grassroots and amateur racing experience that these young drivers take to this championship. So most of these drivers, though they're young, have lots of laps around here in the real world and in the simulator.
Well, that's a huge part of it too, isn't it, these days? It provides a jump start to young drivers, brings them up to speed that little bit quicker because they spend so much time racing around these tracks virtually, and the simulators now are so good that even at home you can learn a lot of those nuances we talked about earlier on, just sitting, in the comfort of your own office or wherever your sim rig happens to be set up. Talking to team owners as well, they've said this new young generation, they turn up confident, they turn up fast with good habits, and they have racecraft too because they've done it dozens of times already on the sim.
It's elbows out here for sure in Toyota GR Cup North America. Beltray Curtis making his debut in sports car racing in Toyota GR Cup this season as well in that number 5. Looking down through the rest of the order as well, Peyton Fayen in that Nitro Motorsports number 80. Farron Davis in this number 11 RVA Graphics car. But one of the drivers with so much sim experience, Max Schweid for the Tech Sport Racing 98, rolls off 10th today. Has got to sponsor the Chicane Club, which is sort of a sim lounge that allows Max to practice before he shows up to the racetrack. And he intends to participate in the Toyota GR Cup North America Esports Championship for the rest of the year, done in iRacing. That runs races of 25 minutes in length, times 2 per weekend, a week prior to the real race. So we'll see him at virtual Virginia International Raceway in July. Cars rolling off here, Ryan. One pace lap around here. Got to get your brakes and Continental tires warmed up and ready to go racing, because it's a frantic start here at Sebring. You can go 8 or 9 wide if you'd like to.
Yeah, and they probably will. And you can go 8 or 9 wide maybe to begin turn number 1, but you probably aren't coming out the other side 8 or 9 wide. It funnels down, doesn't it, into that high-speed, high-commitment turn, one of the most challenging on the circuit. Calvin Fish has described it as one of the top 5 most challenging in North America. This one, and also turn 17. How about that? This track, in Calvin's estimation at least, contains 2 of the 5 most challenging corners anywhere on the continent.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the challenges of navigating Sebring in these Toyota GR86 Cup cars here in a little while. But for the most part, they're relatively stock GR86s. The chassis is exactly what you get out of the showroom. So is the engine. For as far as parts and pieces, JRI adjustable shocks, Alcon brakes, Continental Racing tires, some aero from TRD, and then of course you've got some Bosch engine management. Starting lineup here for today's race at Sebring. Front row, Weston Workman for BSI Racing alongside Jackson Bell for Copeland Motorsports. John Dean in the number 16 leads off the Legends group alongside Lucas Weisenberg, 2-time race winner so far in 2025. Will Robusto in row number 3 alongside Ethan Goulart, just signed an extension with the sponsor for the rest of the year in that number 72 for Tech Sport. Spike Kolbecker in the RVA Graphics by Speed Syndicate car in row 4 in 7th place alongside Ethan Ayers in 8th place. 9th place is Brett Kowalski for Tech Sport Racing's number 15. Max Schweid, who we talked about a moment ago, 10th in the 98. Ethan Tovo in the 113 starts alongside Zach Hollingshead for PT Autosport in 12th place. 13th place, Jackson Tovo, brother to Ethan, in the Nitro Motorsports 31. Ford Koch in the 21 for Copeland in P14. Christian Weir for Tech Sport Racing in the 71 starts 15th. Aiden Kirk alongside his teammate in 16th place in the 47. Young Jensen Sofronis, son of James Sofronis here, who's won a bunch in SRO, starts 17th place. Beltray Curtis in 18th with Carl Foreman and Farron Davis making up row number 10. And the last row, last but certainly not least, Peyton Fayen in Nitro Motorsports number 80 and Massimo Sinceri in the BSI Racing number 51. So BSI topping and tailing our 22-car grid here today.
Bookending the field, you're right, with Weston Workman on pole position, looking to try and turn that into a race win for the first time in his career, having come so close so many times before. You see the field weaving back and forth, trying to bring some heat into these Contis, which maybe isn't so difficult to do here today, as hot as it is around this racetrack.
And we noted in qualifying that most of the field ran their fastest lap on the first lap of qualifying. That's not typically what you see as you burn the fuel off in a 15-minute session. So it's not going to take a lot to get them up to temperature. It probably won't take a lot to put them over temperature as well, sliding around on the concrete here. We talked about how this GR86 is a relatively stock car. It's strut suspension in the front, multi-link in the rear. And what that means is this is not, GT3 suspension. So you got to be cautious on the curbing around here and not to bend things and bounce things over. The Continental tires actually got a little bit deeper in the sidewall this year to add some compliance for those JRI shocks, so they're not shocking things running off course, and we will see them off course probably at turn 1 and turn 16 in particular, Ryan.
Yeah, it's part of the challenge of this place, definitely. And then, those shocks are going to go through plenty of challenge here with all the bumps around this track. Nowhere else are they more important than they are here at Sebring.
Well, round 3 of 2025 takes us to Sebring. It is hot. The drivers have to keep themselves cool. The car's cool. And it's going to be cool to watch 22 cars go racing for 45 minutes in Toyota GR Cup North America. Race number 1 from Sebring. Tom Hansing throws the green flag, and we're underway from Sebring. Nice, clean, tidy start there, and it's door-to-door for Weston Workman and Jackson Bell towards turn 1. The Endava car, the BSI machine, center road as they head to that first corner, Ryan.
Everyone nice and tidy. on that start. Everyone stayed in their column. That's so important. Bell crossing over now, challenging for the lead at the exit of turn 1. Some dust further back in the pack, but the battle is on for P1.
Jackson Bell takes it away from Weston Workman into turn 3. Now a little contact there with John Dean of the BSI car of Workman, who's losing a couple spots here. And Lucas Weisenberg trying to find the long way around out of turn 5.
Great job by Jackson Bell, backing up the entry to turn 1, getting the good run off, and that gave him the chance to cross over, get to the front, grab the lead. Now he'll try to escape. Easier said than done. Nice clean start to this first lap here, Kyle. It is Jackson Bell leading the way into the hairpin for the first time.
Yeah, next real test is the braking zone into 7. It's 3 wide there. Squeeze for Ethan Ayers in the 78. Middle of the road contact with Max Schweid, and Spike Kohlbecker goes off the road to driver's left. Shortcuts that corner but gets back on track. Everyone keeping it straight for now.
That's the challenge here, running in this big pack. Can you keep it clean but not lose too much track position? You can't afford to be too conservative. Aggression is rewarded in a series like this. Fight is on for 8th and 9th. Further back in the pack, I believe that's Kohlbecker and Schweid side by side. 55 drops wheels in the grass. Kohlbecker losing momentum. He'll drop a spot or 2.
And here comes Zach Hollingshead in the PT Autosport car to the inside. That's one of the teams very active in that esports championship I mentioned before. And Brett Kowalski to the inside, hopping the curb at Tower. Turn 4, Koch goes for a ride through the dirt.
Tech Sport driver Kowalski trying to charge forward right now on the fringe of the top 10. Side-by-side fight here, 12th and 13th. That's Koch and Jackson Tovo. Got around his brother Ethan at the start of this race. Good battles, though, are here in the mid-pack with Jackson Bell continuing to lead by 0.3 of a second. John Dean 0.4 further back in third.
Watch those track limits. There are a couple of cars going all the way to the inside of the blue and white curbing. Can't do that and gain an advantage, so race control will be watching. Jackson Bell weaving down the back straightaway. We saw this at COTA, dissuade the slipstream a bit. These cars don't have that strong of a slipstream, but it does help here, Ryan. Little 3 wide on the backstretch.
Definitely. His dad, Jackson's dad, Townsend, is at Indianapolis this week, and that's where you see that move very often late in the race, going for the Indy 500 win. Jackson may be watching some Indy 500 highlights over the last few days and putting them to good use, able to break the toe, hang on to come around and lead lap number 1.
Jackson was a highlight back at Circuit of the Americas last round with that epic battle between himself and Lucas Weisenberg going toe-to-toe, folding in the mirrors. It was an epic scrap, and I'm sure we're teeing up for more of that today for Koch past Jackson Tovo down into turn 1.
Yeah, that was the fight for 12th and 13th. Anywhere you look, you find a battle. That's what makes this series so compelling. Up and over the curb there from Jackson Bell, and problems into the pit lane for car number 5.
That's Beltray Curtis, who's looks like he might have a puncture on that right front tire. We talked about the curbing. If you nail it too hard and don't have the tire pressures all the way up, it can be catastrophic to your chances of a podium. So Curtis to the attention of the crew on pit lane. They'll put a fresh Continental on the front right as the 13 of Weston Workman trying to find a way around Jackson Bell, but Bell's not getting away, that's for sure.
I think you're right, though, in something you brought up earlier about how these tires are going to need to be managed, especially with the temperatures being what they are this weekend. Pretty much any series here this weekend, the drivers, when you talk to them, they'll point out that looking after your rubber is going to be a crucial element of the race weekend. Bell forced to go on the defensive. That compromised his line a little bit. He's going to have to scrap and claw to keep Weston Workman behind him. We know Weston is desperate to break through, and right now he's heaping the pressure on the race leader.
Little contact leaving Cunningham, turn 10. Just a touch there, like ringing the doorbell. A ding-dong ditch there for Weston Workman for the time being. John Dean sits in 3rd place. Lucas Weisenberg quietly sitting in 4th. He had trouble in practice finding pace. Saw him at the hotel last night, and he said, we're going for the pole tomorrow. Didn't quite get there, but looking for his 3rd win on the season from 4th right now.
It was a ding-dong day yesterday because Jackson Bell was one of 3 drivers with the surname of Bell to top a session in this weekend here at Sebring, which was a very strange occurrence. Never seen anything quite like it, but right now, it's Jackson Bell at the front of this field with Workman just behind. And again, weaving back and forth, snaking down this backstretch, knowing that the toe can be so important when the cars are so evenly matched.
Goulart having a look at Will Robusto here. The Tech Sport Racing 72 up the inside. Squeeze into turn 17 Sunset Bend. Can Robusto cross over here? It's very bumpy right up against that wall. Watch them slam over the bumps. Goulart up a spot to P5.
Wild to watch young Ethan Goulart after so many years watching his father, Elevon, racing at a high level, at the pro level. He's a fixture at the SCCA runoffs in multiple classes over the years. Meanwhile, Weston Workman dive up the inside of Jackson Bell into turn 1. has to check up a little bit at apex. That's going to cost him some momentum. Here comes John Dean. Lucas Weisenberg in tow as well. The fight still on for the lead, headed down into turn 3.
A four-way fight for the top spot. Workman gets the spot from Jackson Bell, but all 4 of these leaders are on top of each other. One slip and slide, and you bring the next into the mix. Workman sideways out of turn 5. He's pushing hard.
So much opposite lock over the last few corners. I really thought that he would lose some momentum out of one. That wasn't the case. He was able to hang tight with Jackson Bell, stayed to his flank, and then had the inside line for the next corner to grab the lead. But Bell not content to run second. He'll challenge to the outside here in turn 7. The hairpin, great passing opportunity. Tough to get it done around the outside, though.
Yeah, sharp radius there, so Bell unable to make the move. What will help, though, is that John Dean is a teammate behind him, so that will be of assistance here when Weisenberg runs for his own team, Lucas Racing, family-owned and operated. Driven all the way out from California. Of course, Weston Workman with BSI Racing, so the second and third place cars. Maybe a little co-opetition going on right now in P2 and P3.
Further back in the pack, Schweid lost about 5 spots on the last lap. Dropped from, I think, 13th down to 18th. So something perhaps amiss there for the Tech Sport driver. We'll have to keep an eye out for that, but it's hard to get our eyes off this battle for the lead. It's been riveting. Workman's got it now. Jackson Bell back to second. That's the order in which they qualified. But Dean and Weisenberg, although in different classes, a really compelling fight for third and fourth.
Yeah, as far as John Dean, that's a competitor in the Worldwide Express Legends category. And, of course, on the podium overall at Circuit of the Americas as well. In the first race of the weekend was a fierce competitor in race 2 as well, but battling for P3. Lucas Weisenberg chasing him down. This slipstream battle here, speeds north of 130 in these cars in the top gear of their 6-speed SATEV sequential, and then down a couple of gears to Sunset Bend. But there'll be left foot braking using that Bosch ABS. They use that quite a bit, Ryan. They are really late on the brakes. The brakes on these cars are so effective for a car that weighs about 2,800 pounds. You can really get aggressive around a place with so much pavement.
A lot of lap time to be found in the braking zones and knowing how best to utilize those ABS systems, that's for sure. Right now, Weston Workman not content to drive in a straight line. It might be a straightaway, but nothing straight about his approach to it. Dives to the left-hand side there into turn number 1. Weston Workman back to the point. Jackson Bell giving chase.
Yeah, some donuts on the right side of Weston Workman's car from that contact with Jackson Bell the last time around. But looking a little more comfortable out front now. Not quite as much pressure applied to the rear bumper of Workman as it was on Bell when the positions were swapped. So maybe the stronger locomotive leading the train right now. We'll see if Dean and Weisenberg can close in from third and fourth.
The veteran John Dean calls Sebring, Florida home. He's been a single-make champion in other series in years past. Brings so much experience to the table in racing like this. And it also doesn't hurt at all that he knows this Sebring International Raceway like the back of his hand. What an asset that is to his team as well as to his own effort going forward. Not just a win in the Legends category, but a strong result overall.
Yes, and he is John Dean the second, John Dean the first. The senior was a PA announcer here at Sebring for many years and synonymous with voices here at Sebring International Raceway. So carrying on that legacy today. And he's no stranger to pro racing and single-make racing in particular. But first time in a couple of years that he's been at this level and competing so strongly for podiums and for race wins. I know he's very excited about it, and a great asset to the team coaching some of these younger drivers.
You might have an answer to this. Earlier today, Calvin was asking me, how old is John Dean? Because some of the classes that race on an SRO America weekend require bronze-graded drivers. He might be a decent shoe if given the right opportunity to plug into some of those cars, whether it's at the GT4 or even the GT3 level, given his pace and ability to run up front with some of these young guns that figure to be the stars of sports car racing in the days to come.
Yeah, Legends category for drivers 45 and older, so that gives you an idea. And again, he's got a lot of years on Jackson and Ethan Tovo, for example, 14 years old each. So those brothers right now battling a little further down the field. So the experience paying off at the moment. Jackson Bell's losing touch with Weston Workman and now has the 16 getting larger in the rearview mirror.
That's great news for Workman. The fact that now there's a fight on for the 6th spot. John Dean and Jackson Bell, if they start to squabble with one another, and with Weisenberg in the mix there too, that will make it that much easier for Weston Workman to pull a gap. He does have the fastest lap of the race at a 2:25.437. That is substantially faster than the next two cars. Weisenberg is also right in the 225s, but they're the only two competitors to drop into the 225 bracket in the race thus far.
Yeah, worth noting, can you keep that pace? Hollingshead and Kowalski, little crossover cross-under at turn 1. Great side-by-side battling here. And you talked earlier about, how aggressive this racing can be and how clean it has been here and how impressive these drivers have been. Or they're going to try to prove me wrong. They're a little rough and tumble through turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, that was Kyle Heyer, everybody.
That's the commentator curse.
There you go, right off track right away. Hollingshead does a great job, keeps that gas pedal pegged, doesn't lose too much ground, but does drop the position to Kowalski. That brings Tovo and Safronis into the equation. Here we go, side by side. This is in the top 4 overall. Weisenberg trying to pry away the 3rd spot from John Dean.
Yeah, I think he got tired of sitting behind the 16 as he watches the 13 car pull away, a car that he beat at Sonoma. He knows he can get up there. Watch those wing mirrors. When they touch, they fold in, and if you fold the passenger side in, you can't use it again for the rest of the race. Little contact there through turn 10.
Weisenberg in the blue 46 to the inside of the black and orange machine of Dean, and he's able to grab that position. Dean trying to counterattack, and look what this has done. It's brought Goulart right into the conversation, running 5th. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all basically nose to tail, and off in the background. Another car dropping a wheel. That's Robusto.
Yeah, and I was talking about that wing mirror on Weisenberg. It was actually folded forward, but the airstream pushed it back into place for him. So that worked out nice and convenient for the 46. A little damage. There's a piece of fender liner or trim or something hanging off the right front. I don't think it'll be of any consequence, but he has had a little bit of rubbing with that 16 Copeland car.
You'll have that, won't you? That's the calling card of this championship. Close racing. Sometimes so close that they do bump into one another and leave some donuts on the doors, but that's part of the fun. Here comes this fight, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, down the Ullman Straight, named for Alec Ullman, who identified this as a potential spot for a classic racing venue. How right he was. Great job there by Weisenberg to hang on to the position.
Whoa.
Dean is vulnerable. What a save. Goulart gets to the inside. The back end kicked out sideways, and the battle continues down the pit straightaway, Kyle.
Threw that car in there. It didn't work out for him, but he saw the opening to the inside of the 16, chucked that 72 Tech Sport car to the inside, and managed to hang on to it. What a driver Ethan Goulart is, showing why he earned that contract extension with his partner on board the 72. That's great for a young driver trying to build their presence in motorsport, to align themselves with a sponsor that will carry them through the rest of the season. And he's up inside the top 5 looking for more.
All of this happening 2.5 seconds behind the race leader, the pole sitter, Weston Workman, who lost the lead on the first lap, had to track down Jackson Bell and put the move on him to get that top position back. And since then, he has pulled away to the tune of 2.475 seconds over the 2nd place driver. Bell with a bit of a comfort zone as well over Weisenberg. But now that Weisenberg is clear of Dean, I'm really interested to see what kind of pace is in that Lucas Racing machine.
Yeah, and again, he was so confident this morning and last night when I spoke to him. And, I talked to him at Sonoma before the race weekend, and I said, what are you expecting this season? He said, 14 wins. He didn't get all 14. He's got 2 so far, and he missed a couple at Sonoma and Coda. But the confidence he has, the swagger that he has, that all comes with his speed as well. And he's doing a great job here. Although, being defensive into turn 10 is not going to help him move forward.
Well, the thing I told him when I met him for the first time at Road America last year is this series is full of power teams like Copeland and BSI. And for this little family-run operation, single-car operation, to be there consistently mixing it up at the very front of the field, it is a remarkable achievement.
It is, and just to give you an example of how grassroots this operation is, he gave me a T-shirt at Sonoma that he flew with in his carry-on luggage. So he basically had all of his merchandise printed. It was a little late, so he brought it on the airplane with him just to make a couple bucks on the side with his racing program. So motivated to continue moving forward in the field here. But Weston Workman extending his advantage right now. And this is what he needs if he wants to get the monkey off his back and finally earn himself a race win in this championship. Just set sail. Don't look at that rear view. They make the windshield bigger for a reason, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe also take a moment to look after those Continental tires as well. In case this field were to get bunched up by a full course yellow, you want to make sure you haven't burned through all you got in the event of a late race restart.
It's a great point. We've had a couple of full course yellows this season, some races with multiple halts of the race. So when you reset, that gives drivers an opportunity. And as we say that, the 47 of Aiden Kirk at turn 16 at Le Mans has gone off track. Looks like he's got it refired and rolling again. I can't tell if there's any damage to maybe the right rear. The left side might have a little bit of damage, but again, the bodywork on this car and a side skirt too. So maybe there was a coming together.
Was running 16th, I believe, at the time of the misfortune. Don't want to call it an incident yet. Don't really know exactly what transpired, but in any event, he's lost a ton of track position.
Yeah, and again, Tech Sport Racing with Christian Weir also drowned the order a little bit. Hasn't been their day so much, but here's a look at the replay. And he's going to be probably at the right side of the shot there. Just gets wide, drops a tire, and the car was already unloaded to the left there, Ryan. So it was already sideways, lost grip over the edge of that curb. And, that was a couple drivers just sneaking through the dust cloud there. That was close.
That dust cloud obscures the view in a big way. You could tell from our camera shot there. Imagine coming through Le Mans corner, turn 16. You're basically full tilt, right, from apex onwards, and you don't want to lift because a lift will kill you down the Ullman Straight. But it takes some guts to stay planted going into that big dust cloud.
To give him credit, he got that thing in reverse pretty quickly for a sequential transmission and was able to back off the racetrack and out of harm's way. So he'll continue.
Had every motivation to get that done quickly, didn't he? He knew that pack was coming his way.
Down into turn 13, tower turn, Ethan Goulart sizing up John Dean as Lucas Weisenberg is slowly reducing the pressure from that fourth place Copeland Motorsports car. And just keeping an eye on the gaps. Lucas Weisenberg still running pretty reasonable lap times, 5.3 seconds back from Workman. But again, Weston out in front with that number 13. We'll keep our eyes on lap times. It was still the quickest car last time around, though, with that clean air out front.
Yeah, Workman has backed off the pace somewhat, or maybe has been forced to, as you would expect, at the pace and with the amount of effort that's exerted. These tires will drop off over the course of a run, as any race tire will. So the pace has come down a little bit, but that said, Workman's still running in the 225s. No one else has been able to do better than a 226.6, I think, on that last lap. So Workman with some pace in hand.
Still over half the race left to go, though. So much left to decide in this event here. Race 1 of 2 of the weekend here at Sebring International Raceway. Right out to the edge of the wall. Yesterday in practice, it was Christian Weir that got so close to the wall on corner exit at 17. He ripped the wing right off the car, caught the end plate on the tire bundles. It was pretty exciting to watch.
Weisenberg has his hands full with John Dean, and he's being pressured. It's caused him to go offline a couple of times. We're getting a report that he had a bit of a wild run on that previous lap, but he's been able to hang on to this position. I thought once he got clear of Dean that he might set sail, but it's not been the case. I think we got to look at what happened on the last lap into turn number 1. Keep an eye. Wow. More than a little bit off track. Hey, you said these shocks were going to be tested.
I told you they would be, and Lucas trying to carry as much speed as possible. For as much pavement as there is here, there's not all that much runoff because where you need it, it's all grass and sand. So took those tires for a ride, a little bit of a bumper clip missing off of the 16 car. And I was wondering, I don't think the piece that's hanging off of Lucas Weisenberg's car is from his car. I think a piece of the bodywork has impaled itself in the right front from John Dean's number 16. That might actually have been from, I guess it was from the 16 car.
A little extra downforce.
Yeah, I suppose. These cars don't have dive planes in the homologation, but
they do now.
I suppose it'll have to pass tech post race anyway. Here comes the 78 of Ethan Ayres, approaching the number 2. Brand new car for Ethan Ayres this week. New chassis. That's why it's body in white after having very patriotic looking red, white, and blue livery back at Circuit of the Americas last time out.
Top running car out of the Nitro Motorsports stable. Doing a good job right now, holding down the 7th spot. He's got some pressure coming. Actually, that's Robusto and Ayres, excuse me. So Ayres putting the pressure on Robusto there.
Now, Robusto had a great round at Sonoma, scored points in race 1. It was a victory in race 2, and was running well and qualified well at Circuit of the Americas, but had a drain plug that wasn't completely threaded. It unthreaded itself on the pace lap, dumped all the oil on the racetrack, and they had to start from the rear in the second race. And when they did that, didn't score points after getting contact with Lucas Weisenberg, in fact, at the tail end of race 2. So no points scored for Robusto at COTA in Austin last month.
Robusto very defensive here into Sunset Bend. Ayres just sizing him up, backing up the entry. Now gets to the inside, now gets to the power, and they're side by side off of turn 17. Drag race down the front straight, and Ayres wins it. able to take that position right back up to the 6th spot now.
Yeah, turn 17, Sunset Bend. There's so many different ways to take that corner, especially in a car like these GRD6s. Softer suspension, they're fairly compliant. You can do a couple different lines through there, as we saw for Ethan Ayres trying the over-under method on corner entry. They work their way through Sector 1 now, and Weston Workman has established himself out to a 4.2 second advantage. So the best fights in the field right now are for 6th place on back.
Might have noticed in the background there was a car with the hood up on pit lane. That's Beltray Curtis. We saw him limping back there earlier in the race, and he's been stuck in the pit lane for a couple of laps.
Yeah, the only reason I can think, just going off of context clues, we saw the right front looked like it was sort of low, and it might not have been a tire. He could have maybe sent the shock tower through the bottom of the hood there. So again, if you had gone off track, that's one of the disadvantages of a strut suspension. When you nail a curb like that, you can pop the suspension out the hood, which again, if you keep it on the road, that won't happen. So he must have gone off somewhere.
Normally it wouldn't happen, but Sebring
Right.
wouldn't be the first time.
It is a chassis dyno of racetracks, isn't it? It definitely tests these things. A little bit of damage to the left side of Christian Weir's 71. You see that just the crinkles in the bodywork there. And blue in color. They don't paint cars anymore. They're all vinyl wraps, but you have to wonder where that paint came from. There's a handful of blue cars in the field, but it wasn't Weisenberg, so you have to start stitching the pieces together. Or it could have been from the tire bundles around the circuit as well.
Certainly could. It does look like it'd be the right shade of blue. Right now, coming under a lot of pressure here, this is Ethan Tovo. Jackson has done a great job, actually. Raced up just to the fringes of the top 10, right on the outside looking in at the moment in 11. Ethan struggling a little bit further back.
Yeah, the Tovos really impressed me. I met them first at Virginia International Raceway last year, and I walked up to Jackson, and at the time he had just turned 14 years old. Like, his birthday was the previous day. And he started talking to me like any driver in the paddock at SRO ever. And I was just shocked because it was like, you know, you'd expect, you know, mom or dad to come up and introduce, but no, not Jackson and Ethan Tovo. They were so excited to talk to me and explain how they had come from, an amateur grassroots racing background. It was their first time racing cars that weekend at VIR, and they've been so impressive ever since. Jackson and Ethan, you know, they're also, I asked if they were competitive with each other, and they said, you know what, no, not really. We just were competitive with everyone else, but we don't make it, you know, a family battle out there on the racetrack.
It's a very different sibling dynamic than what was in my household growing up. My sister and I very competitive in just about anything.
To be fair, that's what they told me. They could be lying through their teeth, and they might be, you know, arm in
Competing
arm.
to see who had the bigger fib.
Exactly. Little battle down here. Here's Jackson Tovo. Speak of him, down into turn 1 on the inside of the 88 of Zach Hollingshead. Here comes Jensen Safronis to pick the pocket of the 88 as well.
Very opportunistic from Jensen. Father James is here this weekend. He'll be watching on and nodding with approval, I have no doubt. Able to get to the inside there. Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's very, very tight. Up and over the curb, and that almost ended in catastrophe. Whoa, what a save as it turned out from Hollingshead.
Yeah, he tried to take the shortcut there to avoid getting into the side of the 41 and just hooked the curb just wrong. The curbs over in that section are very tall, and on the back side, the grass sort of falls away. So it's like a curb stop in a parking lot if you catch the back side of it. It flung that car to the side. He'll be lucky if the alignment's straight after that.
Fun curb facts with Kyle.
There
this is
go.
a game we even play off air.
Well, we'll play it on air as well. Here's a look at the replay of that moment just a moment ago between these two cars. Watch the 88 here. He's got Safronis on driver's left, and he's going to shortcut this to avoid contact, and then catches that curb with the left rear tire, and it shoots it hard left and managed to split the difference there just in time.
Amazing. I thought surely that was going to tag poor Jensen Safronis and collect the pair of them, but they were able to continue on. Very, very fortunate there, just past the halfway mark.
Battle continuing here for third place, Lucas Weisenberg and John Dean. Weisenberg in that Segra liveried car, the blue 46, jumping up over the curb, straddling those to get themselves set up for the run onto the backstretch here, but nobody's making inroads on Weston Workman, and you have to wonder what the mindset is in that BSI Racing 13 right now, with cars very small in the rearview mirror, just hoping and praying not to see a yellow flag.
Exactly, that's the last thing he needs. This has been a near perfect race from him. Meanwhile, Dean filling up the mirrors, first the left mirror, then the right mirror, and then back to the left, back to the right again. So far, not able to distract Weisenberg to the point where he's able to get back around, but this is just fantastic stuff between the youngster Weisenberg and the veteran in Dean.
Lucas is pretty savvy. He won't let that distract him. He'll play the game back. If you see these two swap, he'll do the exact same thing. And again, they've gone toe-to-toe most recently at Circuit of the Americas in Austin last month.
Jackson Bell just did his best lap of the race the last time by. That's the first time in some time that I've seen someone turn in a personal best lap, interestingly enough. It still was not faster than Weston Workman, though, crucially, and the gap remains at 4.5 seconds.
You just start to wonder, though, is that going to be a trend we'll see if Workman starts to lose the advantage he's built? It's 4.5 seconds right now, but still 20 minutes left to go. That's a long time. If I've learned anything in 3 years in Toyota GR Cup North America, 20 minutes is an eternity as far as the racing action goes.
So much can change in a short amount of time, no question about it. Weisenberg running in that third spot, Dean in fourth. Jackson Bell, rather quiet race ever since Workman got back around to take the lead. Again, Workman was the pole sitter, but lost the lead on lap 1. Took him a couple of laps, but he did get the top spot back, and since has been cruising out to a lead as big as 4.5 seconds. Seems like maybe Bell just driving a smart race, keeping the powder dry for a late charge.
We talked earlier about how he's the championship leader by 2 points over Weston Workman. Now that would shift today if Workman hangs on to this, but second place finishes all year long will be pretty hard to beat as far as the points are concerned, provided no one is beating you every single one of those times. But so far it's worked out with with a win at COTA and a couple of seconds at Sonoma and race 1 at COTA.
There's the leader, Weston Workman, a bit anonymous with the lead that he's been able to build up. This is very out of character in this championship to see a lead of this magnitude.
Certainly this season it's out of character. We've seen, in past seasons, Gresham Wagner and Tyler Gonzalez just drive away from the field. Again, we talked about how the slipstream will not keep you together. You can outdrive it pretty easily. But this year, it's been incredibly competitive. We have yet to really determine who is the favorite to win this championship. You can look at the standings all you want, but any of those top 3 are good. And of course, Will Robusto's won a race. And I think sans that the lack of points at COTA, he's still going to be a factor for the title. So, yeah, I mean, this is abnormal. But if Workman can continue doing this for the rest of the year, he'll be hard to beat.
Exactly right.
Great balance there for Jackson Bell through turn 17. Had the car in a slight yaw, but not enough that I think he's chewing up the Continental tires. Just has the car pointed. You can use the brake pedal to just get that car pointed in the right direction. Here's Ford Koch and Jensen Sifronis. This is a battle for 11th and 12th at the moment.
Sifronis dropping that position to Ford Koch. A couple of Copeland Motorsports teammates. Wheel to wheel. Good chunk of the field, I guess, would actually be described as Copeland Motorsports teammates.
Ooh. Ford real close to the tire wall at the exit of 17. We spoke with him at Sonoma and asked why, the Copeland Motorsports decision. And he said, I didn't want the team to be a question mark. I wanted myself to be the only variable. I know the team can win. Can I? And he's put himself in position a couple of times to podium, but today needs a little bit more pace to get up to the front.
There's a good and a bad of that, right? Because there are no excuses. On one hand, that provides opportunity, but on the other hand, it does provide some pressure. There's nowhere to hide when you're with the team that's dominated this championship over its brief history and continues to have cars running at the front. You have to be ready to take on that level of expectation and pressure that comes with driving for one of the top squads.
Copeland Motorsports and really Tech Sport Racing and a handful of other teams here in this field are very good at one-make racing, BSI Racing in particular as well, and other championships around North America. They know all the tricks and tips of the trade to make these things go fast. You can't really do a lot to these cars as far as the setup is concerned. A couple different spring packages. You can adjust the sway bars and connect them, disconnect them, and you get the traction control and ABS to play with. But beyond that, again, homologated race cars, you can't replace parts, but that allows for some creativity at times, and those teams have been very good at finding the limits here in this championship, and that's why, in addition to some great talent, they found themselves up at the front.
Certainly so. Weston Workman exhibiting that right now for BSI. Shea Holbrook, part of the ownership group there, great driver in her own right, actually dusted off the race boots a little bit earlier this year elsewhere, which was cool to see. But for Weston, I saw some quotes from Shea basically saying, look, he needs to win races, and he knows he needs to win races. And I thought, it's quite a message to be sending to your young driver, who I'm sure is well aware of this fact, even without you telling him.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, and I know Weston, that'll drive him to find a little extra pace, put the extra 10% in during the week. He's a very fit young man. He spends a lot of time pushing himself forward on track and off. But Shea Holbrook, you mentioned dusting off the racing gloves, did it here in GR Cup as well at Sonoma. So she got experience driving her own team car.
Right, elsewhere meaning not here in
Sebring.
Sebring.
Correct.
That was poorly phrased by me.
But either way, it was fun to see her get behind the wheel of a car, and she did quite well after having been out of the seat for a little while. Actually has a victory a couple of years ago at the streets of Long Beach. She's one of the only women to have ever won there, which is an interesting little tidbit we brought up when she was in the field at Sonoma. But with her BSI racing car leading the way, I'm sure she's a little nervous right now, but that gap keeps growing, Ryan.
It does. Workman has been able to answer the bell. Jackson Bell took a few little lunges, if you will, at Weston Workman, closing in by a few tenths here or there, and then Workman put his head down and redoubled that effort, built the gap back up now, and it's in fact as big as it's been all race long, which leaves us now to take a peek in at this fight. 10th, 11th, and 12th. Jackson Tovo, Ford Koch, and Jensen Sofronis nose to tail, and Ford Koch really hanging it out there, as he has done several times on camera in this race, and probably several times we haven't seen.
For a car that says grip on the side, he hasn't really had a lot of it today, has he? Sliding around on the Continental Racing tires. Down into turn 7, Jackson Tovo running right now. Here's Jensen Sofronis on the attack into 7. Siren song there on the entrance to the corner. It's easy to throw it down the inside and get a little over your head, but great patience there by the driver of the 41.
It is tantalizing, but dangerously so sometimes. But you know what? As we get closer and closer to the end of this race, it becomes all the more appealing. Desperation starts to creep in deep into the going, especially when it comes to fighting for a position inside the top 10, and that's still very much up for grabs between these three.
It is, and again, Jackson Tovo will be proud of this effort if he can hang on to 10th, but 14 minutes to go is a long time here in the heat. I'm sure temperatures in the cars north of 120 degrees right now, probably even better than that. Again, no air conditioning in these cars. 45 minutes. These drivers, for the most part, are pretty young and sprightly. They'll be all right, but once that green drops, they're pretty focused at the task at hand.
Need to be. No room for distraction when it comes to competition this close, and in a car like this where you don't have a ton of horsepower to fall back on. A little mistake can cost you momentum, and momentum is everything. You get swallowed up if you lose it, even for just a moment. So, yeah, that level of focus absolutely requisite to race and win at this level.
I think this is why this has been a great proving ground for drivers trying to establish themselves in North American sports car racing. 230 horsepower, you're learning to drive momentum cars, and that skill doesn't go away when you move up into GT categories. Jackson Bell, though, feeling some pressure from Lucas Weisenberg, rehashing the battle he had at COTA, but this time for second.
Interesting development here. These guys falling off the pace of Weston Workman, who now leads by nearly 6 seconds, and Jackson Bell, from a quiet second, finds himself in a heated battle. He's got Weisenberg there, and don't count out John Dean. He'll go for it, too, if given the opportunity. A
Copeland Motorsports sandwich that Lucas Weisenberg would not like to be the meat of for very long. And I think the other consideration is John Dean, with all the experience he has, think of all the racecraft knowledge John Dean is going to have in this scenario, knowing that the driver ahead is attacking his teammate. How can he place his car to be a distraction and prevent Weisenberg from getting by?
Weisenberg has the pace on that last lap. He was half a second faster than Jackson Bell, who seems to be laboring late in the going here for whatever reason. Maybe the handling starting to go away from Jackson just a little bit here towards the tail end of this race. He finds himself under immense pressure now. Weisenberg got close a few moments ago back in turn 7, but now settles back in line and sits right there in the tire tracks of the second place driver.
I'm sure Jackson has given it all he's got right now, but there is an inclination maybe to leave the throttle on the, up, not depressed a little longer, and maybe drag John Dean in to pass Lucas Weisenberg, give him a chance to sprint away. That's a little 4D chess, but I've seen drivers play that before when they know that there's a teammate behind that will fight for them.
Definitely not out of the realm of possibility. He'll be aware of the situation. Team will let him know who's in the cars that are running behind him, and if he can use that to his advantage, surely he will. Right now, though, a nice smooth run through the middle sector that's allowed Jackson Bell to get a bit of that advantage back. Weisenberg now actually on the back foot a little bit, perhaps looking a bit vulnerable himself.
Had a bobble there on the transition from turn 15 to 16. The car kind of squatted in that left front, and the rear stepped out again. Just the balance of these cars, almost perfect 50-50 weight distribution. So it's up to the driver with the pedals and the steering inputs to keep that car balanced. Here comes John Dean, wide arc into turn 17, maybe looking for a late apex to take a run down the straightaway.
It's the classic move here, especially if the cars in front of you are fighting. It's about maximizing the exit to Sunset Bend, turn 17, to give you the run down the pit straight here. Turn 1 is a high-speed corner, but you can pass there if you are brave, if you are bold. We know John Dean is both of these things, and he does take a look to the inside. Not close enough to challenge Weisenberg, and this is music to the ears of Jackson Bell, who suddenly has 2 car lengths in hand over this battle for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, Lucas does not want to be dealing with the 16 car right now. He would very much like to focus on the 7, but he cannot. Jumping, hopping, and skipping over the curbs in the first sector here. The battle for 2nd has been fierce with 10 minutes to go. Nobody's touching Weston Workman right now. It's a battle for the silver trophy at the moment.
Do you think he's allowing himself to think about it?
I think at this point you have to, right? I mean, he's at work, but when you look in the rearview mirror after turn 7 and there's no one in it, you have to start wondering and then start hoping that you don't see that yellow flag again. Although at this point, if you do see a yellow flag, it could end the race, so it could end up being an advantage too.
Stole my thought exactly. We are creeping towards that part of the race where a safety car actually becomes manna from heaven for Weston Workman. We'll see. I'm not sure we're entirely there yet. For now, I think he'd love to see this thing continue to stay green. He's in a great rhythm right now, running great lap times. He's in the 226s. Everyone else, bar Ethan Ayres, is in the 227s or higher. So Workman's got the pace here late in the going, and you got to feel like he's just in a groove at the moment and doesn't want to see anything interrupt that.
Well, I'm sure he'd love to finish this race under green. And I think he'd like to show everyone the gap on the scoring pylon at the end as well. For 3 years competing from 2023 to 2025, 15 podiums and no wins to show for it. Here's a 10-second gap at the end of the race. How about this battle for position? This is Jackson Tovo here in the number 31. And this has been a fierce fight for position the last couple of laps. Here's the 21 of Ford Koch on a mission to get by Jackson Tovo, and it has been fierce. Well, here's a lap ago. Watch this here, Ryan.
These are in the same position that we saw them in last, but it hasn't been that way while we've been away. There's the move there initially, and I have a feeling it's about to swap hands again.
Yeah, it's like you throw them all in a blender at this point, right? Roll a dice, see who comes out the other side. Little contact there, maybe. They might have avoided it there, but Jensen Safronis almost getting into the back of Ford Koch there. Very savvy there. And back to live shots. Here we are, down the straightaway and still in slipstream. Great fights here.
Yeah, this is not a replay. By the way, at the stripe at least, Weisenberg had gotten around Bell. It was really tight at the line. They're still side by side. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all nose to tail here, Kyle.
Jackson Bell is slipping out of 2nd place. Little contact there, down towards turn 3. Weisenberg's on a mission here to get by the 7, and he has done it. Move Lucas Weisenberg back to 2nd place, but Bell doesn't want to give in just yet.
No, the championship leader coming into this race trying to salvage it. It's really tight in that championship battle. Every position so critical, even at this relatively early stage in the championship. But for the moment, it is Weisenberg through on Bell, forced to go on the defensive. Here comes Bell now, taking a peek to the outside.
Oh man, same story, different chapter. We saw this at Circuit of the Americas, these two leaning on each other. Rear kicks out for Jackson Bell, and we're back to the classic Toyota GR Cup battles that we've come to know and love here at Sebring and other places around North America. This racing is thrilling. And Jensen Safronis, trouble for the 41.
Oh my goodness, he was part of that great 10th, 11th, and 12th place battle. Be trying to get that car refired. Hopefully he can. Don't want to see this fight broken off. This is 8 seconds or thereabouts behind the race leader, but 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, what a fierce fight this is.
You have to feel for Jensen, was battling for 12th place. It was going to be a great day for him. He will tumble down the order, but for 2nd place, Lucas Weisenberg sees Weston Workman way up the road, and he would like this race to be about 30 minutes longer, but he won't get that today.
Ethan Goulart and Ethan Ayres also in a really good scrap. That's 5th and 6th, right behind this trio. 6.5 minutes to go, and I think we've got to look back at what happened to Jensen Safronis on the last lap.
Yeah, so the 41's the 3rd car in shot here, goes up the inside of Jackson Tovo really late, just outbrakes himself, tags the 31, and spins off to the inside. So unfortunate there for Jensen, but just a little optimistic.
That cost Tovo a spot to Christian Weir as well, so dropped Tovo down to 13th. Meanwhile, back to this.
Boy, this is a fun fight here. The drivers behind were also slicing and dicing. Goulart and Ayres going at it for 5th. But for 2nd place, there's still a lot of volatility in this fight.
And Kohlbecker's not too far behind Robusto either for 7th and 8th. Really, the top 10 is full of compelling battles, except for the battle for the lead. Weston Workman has had this thing on lockdown since about lap 3.
Yeah, he's done a great job today, and if he can hang on to this, I'm sure he'll be very, very proud of what he's done today.
That incident, by the way, that we just saw the replay of is under review.
Yeah, so here comes Weisenberg out at turn 1, goes on the defense here from Jackson Bell once more. This fight will not be over till the checkers, I promise you that.
No, these two have been in this position fighting with one another for some of the major points positions late in races. They know each other fairly well at this stage. Strengths and weaknesses, they've got them pretty well sized up.
Yeah, that battle at Coda for the race 1 victory was fierce, and I think after the race, talked to them individually, they were a little frustrated at how hands-on it got, but at the end of the day, it was fair racing, fair play. Stewards didn't have to look at anything. They ran into each other as many times as they did the other, so fair play.
Jackson Tovo, by the way, had to go into the pits, so evidently some damage, and we also have a drive-through penalty coming for the 41 of Jensen Safronis, so that has been ruled on and quickly. And the incident responsibility given to Safronis.
It's unfortunate. It penalized himself quite a bit as well. And again, with Jackson Tovo hitting pit lane, that was likely also one of the reasons why they ruled that as a drive-through, because they do also consider, the stewards, what happens to the car that you run into. So if they can't pull away or they have to go down pit lane, they'll consider that as part of the incident responsibility there, Ryan.
Yep, that's definitely part of that consideration process. Meanwhile, Weisenberg and Bell, what a fight they've had here in the last 5 minutes or so. And John Dean, given his history here at Sebring, given the family connection to this track, an overall podium would be really sweet, and he's not far away.
No, he's not. He just has to pass a teammate to get there. And I know Jackson Bell is going to be a fierce competitor in the closing stages of this race. Penalty served for Jensen Safronis. He'll get back on the road, but I think the damage was already done. I think it was just salt in the wound to have to drive down the pit lane in addition to the spin.
Yeah, he'll rejoin in 19th after that, unfortunately, and well away from any kind of meaningful position. So that'll be a learning point for him, still very early in his racing career. A lot of speed, a lot of potential. Can't wait to see what the future holds.
Yeah, if he can just harness it. He's so quick in qualifying and the races. Just needs to stitch it all together. And man, this battle for second, chasing each other all over the concrete surface here at Sebring. Battle for fifth is pretty fierce too, but this one a little higher up the running order. Sideways slide for Weisenberg, drops a tire off the curbing. He's pushing.
Here comes Jackson Bell, smelling blood in the water. Took just a furtive peek to the inside. Not close enough to really pop out of line and make a really firm attempt at that position. Expect the white flag, by the way, the next time by. There were under 4 minutes to go, and we're doing laps up over 2 minutes. So expect that white flag next time. Here comes John Dean, though, all of a sudden looking really strong. He pulls to the outside of the team car now in the run down to 7, but settles back in behind.
It was on the wrong side of the road for 7 regardless, so maybe thought better of it and to tuck back in behind the 7. Give himself a better shot at getting by his teammate in Jackson Bell. And again, John Dean going for the championship. He's 5th in the standings coming into this, so there's no reason why he couldn't or won't attempt to go by Jackson, who comes in as the points leader. But again, how fierce is this? Lucas Weisenberg, Weston Workman, Jackson Bell, they could all swap. Whoever wins this race takes the points lead. That's how close things are 3 rounds in.
And I think it might be like that the whole season, the way that it's shaping up. I think you said it beautifully off the top. We've had dominant champions each of the last 2 years. They've moved on to pastures new, racing together in GT4 America this year, in Toyota equipment, by the way. That's part of that's really the carrot that's dangling in front of these drivers, is some of the support that comes your way if you were to win this championship. But that said, it's left this field wide open, and it's a question now of who walks through that door.
Yeah, I mentioned salt in the wound. Add some more salt to the 41. A penalty for pit lane speed violation. That's a stop and 5-minute penalty applied post-race. I think that feels like a real slap on the wrist there, unfortunately, Ryan.
That's not great, but it should only cost him 1 position, quite frankly. There are only 3 cars behind Jensen Safronis. 2 of them are not running, so it's a lot of time, yes, but ultimately the cost is not super great, really. Any hope at a good result had already flown the coop.
Well, with 1 minute left on the clock, the field rolls out of turn 17. Weston Workman is so far out of this camera shot that he's already taken the white flag through turn number 1. So 3.7 miles left for Weston Workman. The battle is still on for second, third, and fourth. And remember, we talked about how there was a huge hole at the top of the scoring pylon. It was common to see drivers win 7, 10 races a season. Weston Workman has finished second 10 times, but has never won. He might end that today if he can hang on for a half a lap.
That's been the thing missing from the resume. He's been there or thereabouts more often than not in his career in Toyota GR Cup, but trying to seal the deal. I mean, he's led plenty of races. He's been in position to win races, just hasn't been able to complete the entire package. But now half a lap away from that long sought after first win.
He had one stolen from him at Sonoma last year in the opening round. He was 2 laps away from getting it done there, but it was Gresham Wagner that went by. A pretty spectacular pass, I must say, but Gresham went on to win the championship that season with 7 wins that year. Lucas Weisenberg again, this will be a strong return to form again after finishing inside the top 10 after getting rear-ended late in the race in Coda Race 2. So he'll be pleased with the second. I think first place would have been a little bit sweeter, but it's not done yet. I think Jackson Bell might get one more good look at him.
Certainly try. Led some laps in this race, did Jackson Bell. Qualified on the front row. Got to the lead on the opening lap and did lead for a few laps, but faded from there. Looked like he was destined for a quiet second when all of a sudden Lucas Weisenberg found the pace late in the going. He tracked him down. It took a few laps, but he ultimately was able to make that pass and now leads the chasing Jackson Bell by just over half a second, which in the context of this battle seems like a gargantuan gulf to try and overcome.
Well, last time through the S's here into the Le Mans turn for Weisenberg, Bell, and John Dean, this epic battle for second place. But for Weston Workman, boy, it's been a long time. 10 runner-up finishes. And, well, we're in Florida, not quite at Disney, but he's going to break this curse today, I think, Ryan. Through the last corner, turn 17. It has just been so long for Weston Workman, but the effort, the energy, it's all paid off today by over 8.5 seconds. Leaves turn 17, and BSI Racing and Weston Workman win their first race in Toyota GR Cup North America at Sebring International Raceway. For second place, Weisenberg is going to hang on, and then for third, it's the Copeland Motorsports teammates Bell and Dean, 3 and 4, Ryan.
Dean with the win in the Legends category as well. That was really never in doubt. What a great drive, though. Had a really good chance of getting on the overall podium. Ayers and Goulart finished 5th and 6th. Robusto and Kohlbecker were swapping 7th and 8th over the course of the last few laps, and it was super tight between the two of them at the line, just a few tenths of a second. But Robusto does hang on to that 7th spot. He got it back on the final lap. Kowalski in 9th, and here comes Ford Koch trying to hang on for the final spot in the top 10. He'll do it just by a few fractions of a second over Ethan Tovo.
Max Schweid on a recovery drive. We saw him drop down the order earlier. He's actually a couple laps down, it looks like, but he'll come around the final corner right ahead of the 88 of Zach Hollingshead, who will grab 14th place behind Carl Foreman in the 03 for Precision Racing LA.
Wow, what a result for Weston Workman. This is going to be, I suspect, a pretty emotional victory lane interview. He has been so close so many times, and I can only imagine the sense of catharsis for Weston Workman to finally check that box and become a race winner in this ultra-competitive championship.
Yeah, he's won another single-make series, but this one was a challenge for him. The competition level here, the way these cars drive, it's so much more up to the driver to get the job done. They have a little slipstream, but you're not in a draft pack. It's not up to everybody else to determine where you finish on any given day. You have to put in the work. BSI Racing has put in the work. They've been stronger and stronger as an organization here in the Toyota GR Cup North America paddock, and I think the work is paying off for Weston Workman, I'll have to say that, but he didn't do it by a second. He did it by 8.5, and that was a statement if I've seen anything.
Exactly. It sends a message to everyone else of his intentions for the rest of the season. Great execution, like you point out, by the team as well, because when everyone else was losing pace deep into the run, he was able to maintain his. He was running 224s and 225s much later into the race than anybody else. That car was comprehensively the strongest deep into the race of anybody in this field. And credit to the team for the setup, but also for Weston looking after his equipment to make sure he had something to fight with should we have had a late restart, which fortunately we did not.
At times, Weston Workman has just been outraced in the racecraft situations with Lucas Weisenberg and Jackson Bell. And today, the best defense was a great offense. Just drove away, never gave anyone a chance to outrace him other than the initial launch on the green flag where he lost the lead, but came back pretty quickly and got the job done. Here's a look at the race results for race 1 for Toyota GR Cup North America. Weston Workman, after 10 second place finishes, snags a victory over Lucas Weisenberg and Jackson Bell. Ryan.
It does. Jackson Bell, like you said, did get to that lead early. That was really the only time Weston Workman seemed threatened in any way. Bell had to be super aggressive to get to the point on the first lap. Ultimately, just didn't have the pace to hang on. Drops back down to third.
John Dean, 4th place. Ethan Ayers in 5th. Ayers and Goulart had an epic battle there with their Nitro Motorsports and Tech Sport cars, often in the background of that thrilling fight for second. In 6th place, we mentioned Goulart. 7th, Will Robusto stole it away from teammate Spike Kolbecker, who finishes 8th in that bright yellow Vanguard Engines car, with Brett Kowalski and Ford Koch rounding out the top 10.
Weir, Foreman, Hollingshead, 12th, 13th, and 14th. Hollingshead had a couple of wild moments in the race, but some quick hands to save it. Fayen, Davis, Kirk, and Sinceri, Safronis, and Schweid completing the top 20.
Yeah, so some trouble for some of the drivers. Big penalties for Jensen Safronis after the contact late in the race and that stop and 5-minute penalty. I can't say I've seen a 5-minute stop and hold before in SRO, at least in my time here. So that's a big slap on the wrist for pit lane speeding here.
Must have missed it by a pretty wide margin.
I'd have to guess.
For the penalty to be that strong.
I'd say maybe forgot to hit the pit speed limiter would be my guess. But drivers climbing out, they will be hot inside that car again. No AC. Lucas Weisenberg looking fairly tired, but going to take a big swig of water. Well earned, I have to say. As Weston Workman pulls in, finally getting the monkey off his back in this one, Ryan. It has been a tough road, and he's been competitive. It hasn't been, like, this isn't a fluke. He's up here all the time, but just finally sealing the deal.
I'd argue the only fluke is that it's taken this long.
Right.
The pace has been good enough.
Oh, that's great to see. Climbs up on top of the car, big celebration. There's Shea Holbrook in the background celebrating. And she knew he could do it. He made a little bit of teasing just for a little extra motivation. But the entire team is just stoked and amped. That's lovely to see.
Well, first-time winners, it's always a special interview. But when it has come after such a long wait, after so many close calls, you can only imagine the emotions right now in this celebration.
Great sportsmanship there by Jackson Bell on the podium, but giving a hug and a high five and a handshake to Weston Workman. He knew that he just got the job done today, executed to perfection, and just drove away in one of the most dominant, actually the most dominant performance we've seen all year so far.
Yeah, you said it. This year, it's been nip and tuck, really, from start to finish in these races, but not today. Weston Workman put the beat down on him, took the lead, and never looked back.
Well, he is going to celebrate big tonight, but the job's not over. He's got another race on Sunday to hopefully repeat. But with Weston Workman winning his first race after 10 second place finishes, finally seals the deal. Amanda Busick is with him.
Weston, I want to take you a quick moment and look at your family over there. Everyone was squealing when they got over here. Your dad almost wrecked the golf cart on the way to us as well. But Weston, selfishly, I'm so excited to be here with you for this interview. My favorite comment of the day was you were so ahead of the pack that you weren't even in the frame when they waved the white flag. How much of a dream realized is this for you?
Oh my God, it's emotional, honestly. I've been trying to win one of these races for a year and a half, and I just feel so much pressure this year to perform well, and it feels good to finally get a win. I never get emotional over races. It feels so good. Honestly, Amanda, the best part might be getting interviewed by you. I've never been interviewed by you before, so I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say. It feels so good.
How much do those people right there believe in you?
They believe in me so much. They've given me everything. I've been running 2 series with them for 2 years now, and you know, Shea always says, I'm her guy, and it feels good to finally prove that to her.
How about one more interview tomorrow?
I hope we can make it happen. Thank you, Amanda.
Weston Workman, your winner here in Sebring.
I have to say, with a gap that large, I think it was harder for him to hold it together on the interview as it was to win the race. Job well done there by Weston Workman.
You
but
knew it was going to be emotional. That was everything you expected and more. Just soaking it all up, Weston Workman.
I hadn't thought that far yet.
here's the highlights for Toyota GR Cup North America race number 1 from Sebring International Raceway. Side by side into turn 1, Jackson Bell stole the lead early on from Weston Workman. John Dean tried to get by, but could not. Little side by side action here. Zach Hollingshead up the inside of Jackson Tovo, wide at turn 7. Sofronis went on through. Weisenberg went for a ride. Weisenberg went Weidenberg there at the exit of turn 1. And then up the inside, Ethan Ayers sneaks by the 2 of Will Robusto there, leaning on each other a little through turn 17. That battle continued for a bunch of the race, with Spike Kolbecker closing in eventually involved in that battle. Zach Hollingshead jumps the curb here to the inside of Sofronis, gets hooked on the curb, went for a ride to the inside of the road, but kept it straight. Onto the front straightaway, Ford Koch almost clipping the tire bundles there, and then attacking Jackson Tovo rather into turn number 7, with Jensen Sofronis sneaking up behind as well to be a part of that 3-way battle for position. It got fierce, and toe-to-toe and elbows out and rib to shoulder, whatever you want to call it. It was hands-on here for the battle for 12th position. Jensen Sofronis just dodging and weaving. Side-by-side contact there with the 41 sent him down pit lane with the penalty, and the 31 to the pit box. Lucas Weisenberg, Jackson Bell, and John Dean continued to battle for second place. But it was Weston Workman who comes out of the final corner and wins his first race ever along with BSI Racing. Hopes to do it again in race 2 on Sunday.